Assalamualaikum. Thank you all for come here. I will answer all your question. Apa dia? Kat depan tu, my comment when it was reported in the morning that Timbalan Menteri Ahmad Amzad said kerajaan tak dapat memenuhi permintaan orang ramai merakam gambar atau video ketika disuntik. Cannot. You cannot take the video because this will mengganggu the kelancaran of the vaccination process. You tengah dapat the vaccine, you take out your camera and then the nurse or the doctor see the camera want to ansang ayo. Cannot, you will mengganggu. Cannot, tak boleh, cannot. Bagaimana in the afternoon pula, petang, YB Khairi Jamaluddin said you can take the video in the vaccination process? Can. Apa salahnya? Boleh. Bagus. Memang bagus. Boleh. Because you nak ingatkan. You want to remember. You want to posting IG story. This one is my posterity. I remember. Boleh. Apa salahnya? Kenapa confused? Apa yang confused? Kenapa Timbalan Menteri pagi cakap sesuatu, Menteri petang cakap lain? This is not confusing. The reason the Timbalan Menteri said one thing in the morning and the Menteri said another thing in the afternoon, if you don't want to take a video selfie, you go vaccine in the morning. If you want to take the video selfie, you vaccine in the afternoon. Apa yang confused? Tak boleh. Senang je. Assalamualaikum. Thank you all for come here. Seperti mana yang anda semua tahu, today the PM and the Cabinet resign, letak jawatan. Apa Cabinet? Orang Melayu kata Cabinet. Jadi mulai sekarang kita semua tak ada kerja. Apa dia? Oh, ya. Kecuali the PM. Dia dapat kerja baru. Kalau dulu dia PM, sekarang dia caretaker PM. Tapi for me, menteri yang biasa, no job, tak ada kerja. Jadi, if anything happen, don't ask me. I wasn't there. It wasn't me. Apa dia? What am I going to do now that I resign? Oh, you don't know. I am going to terus berkhidmat untuk Malaysia. I want to make sure that Malaysia is number one. That is why I download the Pop Check Click. Dengan Pop Check Click, we must make sure Malaysia is number one. We must beat Thailand and Taiwan. Okay, don't disturb me. I got very many things to do. Okay, Pop Check, Pop Check. Buka mulut tu. Anda semua boleh balik. Jangan kacau, saya tengah sibuk. Come on, Malaysia! Still there? Okay. Apa khabar? Assalamualaikum. I am here to address the issue of the test drive. Saya tahu ramai nak tanya pasal itu. Okay, macam ni. As was explained by my political secretary, we were on our way to Kuala Lumpur. On the way, kita lapar, hungry. So, we stopped at the food shop. And then betul-betul sebelah the food shop, ada kedai kereta showroom. Itu je. As my political secretary said, that's all that happened. Apa dah? Ada video dan gambar yang tunjuk saya masuk the showroom kapak ke? Okay. Ladies. Okay. Yeah. Let's say I masuk the car showroom. It's only because tengah makan, I look across the road, I saw benda yang cantik. Kereta yang cantik. Kereta tu. So, you know lah, kita nampak benda cantik, kita tertarik. Kita tertarik sana. Bukanlah macam saya tertarik dengan janda ke, dengan Minah Hewang ke, Belen ke. Tapi kalau ada janda dalam kereta yang cantik tu, lagi bagus kan? Joke, it's a joke. So, saya pergi sebelah nak tengok aja yang kereta yang cantik tu. Tiba-tiba ada salesman datang. He greet me. Apa dia? What is the salesman doing in the shop during MCO padahal car salesman is not essential? Han tanyalah dia dan tanya saya pula. Kerja saya hanya to greet him. Apa salah kita greet people? During MCO tak boleh greet people ke? SOP kata tak boleh greet people ke? Ada ke? Ada. Tak ada. So that is all that happened. I just crossed the road to greet him. That is all that happened. Nothing happened. Apa dia? Ada gambar dan video yang nampak saya masuk dalam kereta tu ke? Okay. Like this. Let's say I masuk the kereta. I duduk dalam the passenger seat. The salesman duduk in the driver seat. Dia yang driver. My bodyguard duduk kat belakang. So I was not test driving the car. I was test passenger the car. Ada tak SOP mengenai test passenger? Tak ada kan? Tak ada. Don't have. Itulah dia. So, apa dia? What about the SOP that says you cannot have more than 2 people in a car? Han siapa? Where you from? Nilai? No wonder lah. I will not be judged by you. I will not be. Harith Iskandar with a 60-second response to this news item.
Kementerian Kesihatan menjelaskan mana-mana individu yang terbukti diberikan suntikan vaksin picagari kosong akan menerima suntikan dos baru.
Menterinya Datuk Seri Dr. Adham Baba berkata pihaknya akan memanggil individu berkenaan untuk menerima suntikan semula.
Prove that you were given an empty syringe and the ministry will contact you to give you a proper dose? I have 2 questions. 1, how do I prove I received an empty syringe? And 2, how do I prove I received an empty syringe? There's a sign outside the door that clearly says no video camera allowed, or you can take an antibody test to find out. So now the onus is on me to prove that you didn't give me the vaccination that you said you would. But here is what really concerns me. The reaction of, you had an empty syringe, prove it, we'll give you another jab. This isn't like going to the mechanic. We didn't change your engine oil, prove it, we'll change your engine oil. It should be, we didn't actually give you the vaccine which we promised we were going to give you to potentially save your life. And if you hadn't videotaped it, we would never have known. I am so sorry. Why didn't they react that way? You know what's worse? Amongst the millions, and I mean millions of vaccinations already given out, these few incidents have spoiled it for the thousands of good, honest Malaysians who've been working so hard to make this vaccination program a success. This is Harith Iskandar with a slightly longer response than 60 seconds. Get vaccinated. Hey, it's Harith Iskandar, 60-second response. I got a direct message on Facebook from a Joe Harith who asked, Harith, you anti-Melayu ke? Nak dapat sokong non-bumi sebab family you semua tak ada Malays. Lucky your late father Melayu / soldier. Kalau dia ada, sedih tengok you sekarang. Okay, I tried to reply to Joe Harith directly on Facebook, but I think he blocked me. I could not do that, so I'm putting it out there. My late father, Colonel Musa bin Muhammad, waktu dia di hutan during the communist insurgency in the 60s and 70s, alongside all the other soldiers daripada berbagai bangsa of the 6th Regiment Rangers, tak pernah fikir kita sedang bertugas untuk mempertahankan bumi ataupun non-bumi. Diorang semua fikir kita bertugas untuk mempertahankan rakyat Malaysia. So I don't think my late father would be sedih to see what I'm doing now. Tapi mungkin dia sedih kalau dia tahu ada juga orang Malaysia zaman ini yang ada mentaliti yang kata kita hanya boleh sokong bumi atau hanya boleh sokong non-bumi. I'm Harith Iskandar, 60-second response. Saya sokong Malaysia. Hi, Harith Iskandar with a 60-second response. Hamelin TV from IG asked, Mr. Harith Iskandar, why you can't run for Prime Minister? First of all, thank you for the kind message. And secondly, to become Prime Minister in Malaysia, you need to first be the leader of a political party or a coalition. And then your party or coalition needs to win the actual election, at which point the PM is chosen by the members of the parliament, usually made up of members of the winning party. Which begs the question, what if we, the Rakyat, could actually choose the Prime Minister, or any other minister for that matter? So for example, what if we, the Rakyat, could vote for person A to be the Prime Minister, and he's from this party, but we like person B to be the Minister of Education, and he's from a different party, and then we like person C to be the Home Minister, and he's a complete independent, which means instead of ministers being chosen from the pool of people who are members of the one winning party, we get to elect the person that we think could actually be best for the job. So, what about that? Harith Iskandar, 60-second response. Hi, I'm Harith Iskander with a 60-second response. In the wake of the US pulling out of Afghanistan and in response to a report that 2 Malaysians who were relief workers chose to stay back instead of leaving, I saw this comment. I will stay back if I'm there. There is nothing to be feared with the Taliban. They couldn't even looking women in the eye just because to respect women, I will feel safe if Taliban rule Afghanistan. Now, I've never been to Afghanistan, so I personally can't tell you if the Taliban respect women so much, but then not allowing women out of the house and making them cover up with a burqa completely, including a black sheath over the eyes, would help prevent men from looking at women's eyes. But here's my question. If Afghanis themselves felt safe around the Taliban, why were there scenes of thousands of people storming the airport, desperate for a way out, and the horrific video of people willing to die by hanging off the wheels of an airplane as it took off? When a person makes a choice to either die trying to escape the Taliban or stay, then something tells me staying might be worse than dying. I'm Harith Iskander, 60-second response. Hi, Harith Iskander, 60-second response. You've heard about the Bandera Putih movement, a wonderful initiative encouraging people who are desperate kepada mana-mana rumah yang terputus bakalan makanan and they need immediate help to reach out by waving a white flag. Tak perlu malu, tak perlu merayu. Now, in the wake of this fantastic initiative, the Ahli Parlimen of Bachok, Nik Aduh, responded by saying, angkat tangan berdoa, bukan angkat bendera putih, suggesting that the power lies in prayer and not in a white flag. I have a suggestion. Combine the two. If you're hungry and you have no money and you haven't eaten for 3 days because the ongoing pandemic has destroyed your livelihood, how about you angkat bendera putih and then angkat tangan berdoa and hope that someone sees your bendera putih and brings you and your kids some rice and some vegetables and maybe a little milk because you have been feeding your 6-month-old baby syrup because you couldn't afford milk. That is a true story, by the way. Saya angkat tangan berdoa that you've enjoyed my 60-second response. Assalamualaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another episode of What's Going On Malaysia. My name is Harith Iskander, and it is Monday, the 23rd of August. Is that right? 23rd of August. Terima kasih kerana bersama dengan kita malam ni. Thank you for being with us again tonight. Guess what? I think I started like a minute and a half early. Wow, so un-Malaysian. People are going to be complaining in a moment, like, why you start so early? I wasn't ready. Guys, I'm watching your comments. The comments have been buzzing since the way before the show began, and you guys are on fire, and we haven't even started the conversation. Chill, relax. It's only a conversation. We're just asking questions. We are talking. We are all here together tonight, and I want to thank you. Just to let you know, I'm watching Frisha Yao, Ganesh Mahadevan. Good night, Mr. Harith. You're leaving, Ganesh? Please. Arnold Hui, thank you very much for watching. Pauline, Hari Kumar. This is an interactive show. You guys keep on commenting. And please do me a favor, which I will honor and love and respect you forever. Please share this streaming. If you're watching it live right now, share it knife. Share it knife. Share it knife. Share it knife. I have no idea what I just said. Share it now. I don't even know how I said knife. If you're watching this later, like tomorrow or something, or whenever, please also share it on your Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, of course, and right over here, press on this little bell button over here, and you will get to know when when I am on live, right? Anytime you're going to be the first to know. So guys, you know what? It's been the first day of, is it the first day? Yes, officially of our Prime Minister, Dr. Sri Ismail Sobri, got straight to work. I think he was in Kedah over the weekend. And so we do wish him all the best. It's too early to tell. It's only been hardly 24 hours. So we can't start screaming and jumping up and down yet. Don't start complaining yet. Although I have seen a lot of complaints already on social media. But guys, this is an interactive show. Please, once again, share this Facebook post and YouTube post, and also keep on commenting. I'm going to be watching. Denver, Colorado, KCH from Denver, Colorado, Sarah from Malacca, Mama Pan from Penang, apa khabar? What's happening Penang? Eric Lim also watching from Penang. Krishna, Veni, good evening. Tracy Mikhail. All right, let's jump straight into it. First of all, I just want to say, every time I have a guest on the show, doesn't matter who I get, there's always a segelite. There's always a fair few people who go, yeah, Harry, why you invite this person lah? This person is a waste of time. Why don't you invite A, B, C, D, E? This is typical Malaysian. No matter what you bring for them, they always want something else. You can take your Malaysian friend to the best chicken rice stall, and while they're eating the chicken rice, they're going to say, this chicken rice are no good. You got to come to my chicken rice stall, which is in SS2. That's the best. Guys, it's just a talk show. I invite people on the show who I believe have a valid and valuable opinion and are generally smart people, and I like talking to smart people. You can learn a lot no matter who you speak to, even if you may not agree with them. And I don't need to necessarily, that's my second Freudian slip, necessarily, I don't need to, vegetable, I don't need to necessarily agree with all the guests on my show, but at least there is no harm in talking to them. So it's actually very simple. This is social media. If you're not interested or you don't like this blah, don't watch. But if you want to learn something, I guarantee you, stick with us for the next 60 minutes or so, and who knows, you may walk away better informed, if not a better person. All right? All right? All right? And if you don't, well, that's on you. All right? Not on me. So why don't we jump straight into it? Ladies and gentlemen, Tuan Tuan dan Puan Puan, I would like to invite into the studio right now a gentleman who coincidentally was my second guest on a talk show I used to have on Awani called obviously Harith Iskandar, and that was I think around 2016, 2017, and since then we have met a few times. We've played golf, we hang out once in a while, but we haven't sort of sat down like this to talk, not just privately, but to talk with the whole audience out there. And recently this gentleman released well, let's just say there was an article with his thoughts in it, and I was intrigued by this article, and I said, please, Dr. Sri, could you be a guest on my show? And he said, yes, no worries, and he's here tonight. So without further ado, we're going to be talking about that article, what it's all about, and where it's going from here. Tolong berita pukan yang gemuruh at home, wherever you are watching on your device, to Dato Sri Nazir Razak. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Harith. Good to be back with you.
Thank you. Dispense with the formalities. We spoke a little bit about golf. You've already been back on the golf course. They've just hardly opened up, and you went back on the course already. What's going on?
I'm semi-retired. I got plenty of time.
Semi-retired. That's what they all say. But no, I know you're semi-retired. We kind of know that. But you've kind of jumped on board on various, if not social causes of your own doing, but also a couple of other, business and socially related companies. Would you like to just very quickly give a 1-minute brief to the public in general about what's been going on in your life in the last couple of years?
Sure. I retired from CIMB in 2018. Then I spent a year as a fellow at Oxford University. And then I came back in 2020, where I've done a few things, including mainly focusing on a private equity business based in Singapore, which I launched. And then I've also taken on chairmanship of Bank Pembangunan here in Malaysia, but that's non-executive. And then, I have a few people, and we do kind of social projects, right? Some philanthropy, but also some research work. And that's, I believe, what you're dragging me here for.
Yes, and dragging you is correct, because I had to say, I was, although I do know you, I was actually very, very intrigued by reading this. Well, I read it as a PDF, as an article in a paper. A Better Malaysia Assembly, not just a new PM, please. Now, I believe you wrote this. Was it? Well, it was published August 17th. That was just before our new PM was announced. So that title itself immediately caught me, because you were requesting a Better Malaysia Assembly, not just a new PM, please. In your own words, what's that all about?
Well, I believe that our system needs a reset. And I believe this for some time. I first spoke about it in a public forum in October 2015, where I said that, I thought long and hard about it. There is too much concentration of power in the PM's office. There's communal tensions. There's too much corruption. There's abuse and of the new economic policy, and a lot of questions around its continued relevance and so on. And there was reasonable positive reception even back then in 2015, but the government then didn't want that, obviously.
And just to point out to people who may be thinking about that, 2015, when you say the government then, in the Prime Minister's seat was your very own brother, and you were proposing this. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
Wow. So just from a personal level, because let's assume nobody's watching, any tension there? How does that work?
A little bit. And part of the reason was I was quite concerned about what was happening on the 1MDB front. At that time, there was a huge controversy, and I felt one of the issues is we were unable to deal with it. The institutions were not functioning to deal with that financial scandal itself.
Sorry to harp on this. When you say the institutions were not functioning to deal with the issue itself, could you just briefly describe what you mean by that?
Well, quite clearly it was evolving that there was a financial scandal at 1MDB, and our institutions, the checks and balances, the parliament, etc., was not functioning well enough to kind of investigate and get to the bottom of what was going on, if you recall at that time. And, I felt that was a reflection of the fact that the Prime Minister was too powerful. By right, at that time, the Prime Minister should have stepped aside and allowed the investigation to go on, to be done thoroughly, and then, the right actions be taken. But instead, for all intents and purposes, investigations were ended, and they only restarted after GE14. Yeah, so
okay, go on.
That was where it started, and then GE14 came, and after GE14, I took a year out. Obviously, I thought that we had a reformist government coming in, so we don't need this National Assembly because there's a new government and they're going to fix everything. So I went off to Oxford and just spent a year studying the whole topic of national resets, and I looked at the situation of Malaysia after May 13th. I looked at Indonesia after the Asian financial crisis, and I looked at South Africa after apartheid. And I wrote a paper at Oxford, and in 2020 I came back, and as part of this, I commissioned a study led by Dr. Anis Yuzal at the University of Kebangsaan, where we interviewed about 200 over people, from Mahathir to Anwar to youth leaders to business leaders, etc., and discussed this what ails Malaysia. And I think we came out with the decision to reaffirm this need for a national reset. And of course, at the same time, we had this fall of the PH government after promising reforms and of everything. In the end, after 22 months, very little was actually reformed. So then if you reflect back, Najib came in with a lot of reform promises. Badawi came in with a lot of reform promises. So you had Badawi, then Najib, then Mahathir 2.0, all promising a lot of reforms, and were not able to implement reforms. So then you question, is it just the change of leaders, or is there something wrong with the system that is basically, against reform? And when I think about it long and hard, the system is very resistant to reform.
My non-existent hair is now standing on edge because as you're saying that, it has often been an argument of mine that, yeah, you could change the head of this beast we call Malaysia, but nothing really seems to change. Maybe we need to start looking at the body, because the body's not moving. The heads are changing, and people are complaining it's the same head, just changing around. So this reform that you're talking about, and maybe it's the system, could you spend a little bit of time, like,
sure,
have you studied that? Like, when you say the system, what is the system, and why is the system, and how did it get there, and why can't we change it?
So this system is basically our democracy, our institutions, the social economy, including our social contract, etc., that has been with us essentially since we last reformed it, which was 1970. Yeah. So let's go back a bit more. In 1957, we went independent. We basically chose a Westminster-based system. Because for no great reason, simply because the colonial masters said this was the best system of all systems. So we just took it. We didn't think that thoroughly about whether this system is suited to our history, our culture, and so on, right? But we just took it. This system basically crashed at the first hurdle. The first hurdle was GE3 in 1969. As you know, race riots broke out, etc. Well, I say it fell at the first hurdle because GE1 and GE2 didn't really count, because we were all focused on the Konfrontasi, independent, formation of Malaysia, the communist insurgency, etc. A lot of nationalist fervor at that point in time. So first time we focused on domestic issues, the system crashed.
Okay, and then let me just sorry, Dr. Sri, may I just hold you at that moment? So just because I think a lot of our audience watching tonight, probably were not even born around 1969, 70. When you say the system crashed, what was it about that current system then, the Westminster system, that it came up against that it couldn't handle, and therefore, in your words, crashed?
Well, we had racial tensions in 65 in Singapore, in 67 in Penang, many little tensions amongst communities before 69. But when it came to the general elections, when really campaigning was all about race, all about religion, things got out of hand, and we were killing each other just after the GE, when the results were not finalized, and the Malays thought they had essentially lost power, and so on. Fighting broke out, and national emergency was declared. And we were ruled essentially by dictatorship for 21 months, right? And then the leadership at that time, my late father Tun Razak, as well as Tun Ismail and others, basically looked at it and said, the system doesn't work. We need to reform, and they set up this assembly, they called it National Consultative Council, of 67 leaders, as well as intellectuals, and even religious leaders, and so on. And basically, they debated for about a year about what caused May 13th and what should be done about it. And they came up with pretty fundamental reforms of the system. They brought in the new economic policy, they brought in the Sedition Act, they brought in Rukun Negara, and they also engineered the formation of Grand Coalition government, where every political party, bar the DAP, was part of government. So those were the main reforms. But when you look at what it did, it totally changed the system we had. So I call that Malaysia 2.0. Now, the people who formed Malaysia 2.0 realized it was not a system that should last forever. Yeah, even the new economic policy, they gave it a 20-year time frame. They said it shouldn't be. Eventually they knew that this system, cannot last for future Malaysians, for future challenges. So they expected us to reform it, but we never did. In 1990, when we looked at the NEP, we debated and we decided that we should continue with the new economic policy. And today, 50 years on, we have a system that was designed in 1970. Right. So what I'm arguing is that over the years, this system did some good in the first 20 years, but as it perpetuated, it gave rise, a lot of its side effects basically took hold. You had this system brought good things, political stability, it addressed poverty, there was a growth in Malay middle class, the economy was doing well, and so on. But at the same time, it had side effects. There was corruption, there was strengthening of identity politics, and there was centralization and power in the PM's office. So those were the side effects. And over time, I feel that the good things were overwhelmed by the bad things. And these side effects basically is what I call today the real rulers of this country, the three-headed monster: identity politics, money politics, and concentration of power. That to me is the three-headed monster, going to the analogy of monsters that you brought up just now. And the objective is to slay this monster, and that is what we need to reform, to take this country down a better path.
Okay. We're here now. Just going back to what you said earlier, you said in 1990, you used the word "we sat down." I don't know if you meant yourself as well, but was there a concerted effort at that time to look at the system as it was then and then decide to carry on? Are you just saying we kind of just let the boat sail without stopping it?
No, there was a huge council, 100 over people that was set up by the government then. And I think that the problem with that situation was really that was not an independent process. It was basically the government of the day setting up a council and deciding whether you wanted to accept the council's recommendations. Yeah, unlike what we're proposing today, which really I'm proposing today is to set up a truly independent platform to genuinely debate what is better for the nation going forwards.
Just as a I think it's a wonderful suggestion. Going back to your three-headed monster, so you're proposing an independent body be set up to look at it by law, or would there be? Let's say you could get this independent body together. Let's say you could debate it and talk about it. How would you implement any changes if there were some serious changes to the system? How would you push that through?
Thank you. So this deliberative platform is essentially an innovation to democracy today, right? Where we set up independent group of whatever 50, 100 people, best and the brightest leaders, and we basically bring all the issues to the table and we debate as well as we give and take to design a new system. And based on their recommendations, we go to Parliament and ask Parliament to adopt these recommendations in the form of reform to legislation, policies, maybe even the constitution, right? In order to design a new system. And let me give you an example, Harith. The issue that we want to talk about, new economic policy, affirmative action, unfair to the non-Malays, right? How do you reform something like that? Because as soon as you try and touch it, the Malays will say, hey, they're not being fair to me, right? Yeah. And then at the same time, many people want us to go to school together. So they want the end of vernacular schools at some point, right? Yeah. And then if you tackle that issue, the non-Malays will say, oh, no, you're depriving me. This is what we agreed, blah, blah, blah. But what if all those issues were discussed together? That means, okay, by 2035, we dispense with affirmative action for one race, we dispense with identification of people by ethnicity on their identity cards. We basically merge vernacular schools with national schools. Is that a formula that we can work with? Would you as a non-Malay accept that give and take? Would you as a Malay accept that give and take? And this is what I say, that is, we need to sit down together and have these issues deliberated, right? The problem with our system today is every time you want to reform, this is why in a plural society, multiracial society, it's very difficult to reform because everything gets wrapped in race and religion. Just like the under Mahathir 2.0, the PH government, they wanted to introduce, accept UEC, right? The examination certificates, or sign the ICERD, the International Convention of for racial anti-racial discrimination. But those are pretty benign things to do. But because they were kind of wrapped up as being bad for one group, right? There was tremendous resistance, and it couldn't be done, right? But to me, this wrapping of everything in race and religion is really just a means for this three-headed monster to protect itself.
I gotta say, I've never been in more agreement with anyone on any point, because you're exactly right. Every time we try to approach one subject, there will be a group that will say, hey, and before you can even move forward, it gets knocked down, because everything is based on race, religion, and our stand. Everyone feels they have a right, rather than why can't we all have the same rights? It sounds like a great plan. Sounds like a great idea. How feasible is it? I mean, really, what will it take for Malaysia and the rakyat and the leaders? What will it take to actually not just push this through, but even get it forward 5-10 steps?
Well, I'm putting it out there, and I think that the more people support it, the more the people that can make it happen will feel inclined to make it happen. I'm even hoping one or two political parties basically embrace it in their manifesto for the next elections, if need be. For instance, but in my current proposal, I'm hoping that this is an idea that the government and the Rulers' Council will basically look at and say, look, given how dysfunctional our politics has become, I know you've seen all the memes, right? You vote once and you got 3 prime ministers, etc. And clearly the monarchy is also very frustrated about what's happening in politics, just like the rakyat. And maybe they'll see this as enough reason to basically take on this proposal of creating this Better Malaysia assembly. This is not an assembly to govern the country. The country will continue to be governed, and Parliament will continue. But this is offline, a platform where we debate long-term structural reforms. And let me tell you that Parliament is not a good place to debate long-term structural reforms, because politicians worry, they basically vote according to what their party leaders want them to support, and they basically always have in line the next election, right? What is best for the next election? They don't look 2-3 generations time, right? To do that, you need to go to a platform that is not filled with just politicians. And there's a whole growth in a study of this whole notion of a deliberative platform, Harith, and many countries have actually adopted it in parallel to parliaments. The most famous is probably the Irish Citizens' Assembly, which addressed the terribly contentious issue of abortion, right?
Okay.
Where 100 people, with a judge as the chairman, they created this offline assembly to debate this issue of legalizing abortion. When the assembly recommended to Parliament that they think abortion should be legalized, Parliament said, "Are you insane? The rakyat will not go for this." But then they said, "Never mind, take it to a referendum." When they went for a referendum, 2/3 of the people voted in favor of legalizing abortion. That's an example of how detached parliamentarians can be from the actual view of the rakyat. I refer you to one of your Harith 60 seconds comment where you say, "Oh, why don't we have a system where we can vote for the PM and maybe vote for the ministers?" I mean, it's a fact that we should consider other electoral systems. right? Don't forget, at the time of independence, we chose the Westminster system. We didn't choose the presidential system or any other. We chose that because the Brits said this is the best for you, right? But actually, come now, given the history, given our better knowledge now, why cannot we choose a system that's best for our country? Now, academia will always tell you, it's quite consistently saying that, look, for multicultural societies like ours, you actually should have proportional representation and not first past the post system, which is what we have, right? And so these are the kind of reform offline platform that I'm talking about.
Okay, I don't know whether have we lost you? You're still there. Okay. Oh wow. You know what? Just you were talking about the abortion issue in Ireland. I was actually thinking, the moment let's just take one example where you say we need to get rid of the NEP idea of the Malayu, rights in terms of the spaces in university, etc. And immediately I'm conditioned to think, oh, the Malayas are going to get up in arms about this. Mana boleh, mana boleh. But I've been noticing on social media, at least in my feed, a lot of Malayu are stepping forward and saying this system is not fair to even the Malays because we are not taught to be competitive because we are being given, on a 100-meter race, we're starting 10 meters ahead of everybody else. And, this is weakening in us. And I'm happy to see Malays speaking out about this because, like you say, it's a system that was set, well, in this case in 1970, but we're in 2021. So I'll take that idea, at least put it out to the public and see what the public say. Let me just ask you this: what do you think would be, not to say the easiest, what would be the most obvious one to tackle deeply and first? Like, what would be, out of the three-headed monster you were talking about, what would be the one you think to yourself, you know what, we should focus on this, if not all together at the same time, this one first?
But my point is that you can't deal with one. You have to deal with all, because if you chop one, right, if you only chop one head, the other two will help the third one grow, right? Let me give you an example of of corruption, of political funding, right?
Okay.
We always say, under previous governments or recent government, we want political funding reform. What is political funding reform? Political funding reform is about transparency in political funding, right? You have to disclose where you got your money from and how you spent your money. But in a system where the incumbent government is in control of the enforcement arms like MACC and the Election Commission, how are you in opposition going to be willing to disclose political funding, right? So that's an example of how interlinked things are. And I've talked about the Malaysian economy before. I've said that Malaysia doesn't have an economy. We only have a political economy because it's all interlinked. You saw it with the previous government where, GLC positions are given as part of, politics, right? The political trade. Well, if that's the case, how is the government going to be inclined to support, reducing the influence of government companies in our economy, which is so needed? So you can see how things are so interlinked.
I think the fact that they are so interlinked is actually what is causing my brain to jam. That's why I asked which one to deal with first, because it's a maze. Not amazing. It is a maze where you need to untangle not just one. And you're right, all three, because now that you say it, it's true. The moment you disable one, the other two, if they don't grow stronger, will enable the third to grow back, or a third that we don't even know about. Oh wow!
No, it also looked like I spent a lot of my career under this whole project called GLC reforms to clean up the way GLCs are managed, etc. So we spent years, the whole of the noughties, the early first years of the century, after Asia financial crisis, we did GLC reforms, and very nice, Kazana had these nice books about how we should behave, blah, blah, blah. But there was never reform of politics. And so politicians initially stepped back, but after, before long, they started getting into GLCs again. Yeah, and that's another example of why the whole thing is so interlinked.
Oh, you know what? I want to encourage everyone who's watching right now to really take this in, because we're talking to someone who took 2 years off and just studied this, and my brain is jamming just listening to him. Thank you, Dr. Sri. But you need to share this, guys, and you need to. More people need to hear this. I truly believe this, and if more people do hear this, like you say, if you put it out to the Rakyat, it may take the Rakyat's push that will cause real change. Let me ask you this, though, because right now we're in the world of social media. The studies that you did and the examples that you gave of real reforms came from a period or a time prior to social media, whereas now social media is a communicator, a message sender that is, it's a monster in itself. I'm just wondering if any of this kind of change can really happen, given that everyone has the world in their hand and their opinion is heard and almost believed immediately. How many WhatsApp groups are you in that you suddenly get someone telling you this, and then it suddenly becomes the truth without even checking the source? Is it possible to do it?
Yeah, I think it will make this whole reform process much more effective, because we can leverage on social media to engage the Rakyat. We could, get specific issues voted on a daily basis to really know what the Rakyat wants, right? So I think it will come up with better solutions, in my view.
Okay. No, but you're right. I do know. You know how you get this WhatsApp, sign this petition. We're aiming for 100,000 signatures, and I do notice occasionally when they hit that number, suddenly the ones who are in the petition or the people who they're aiming at take notice and then release some kind of statement, like they might change something based on an immediate petition of 100,000 people signing. So yeah, given that, you may just be right. However, there are silos in social media where you can be led down, I wouldn't say the wrong path, but a path where you totally believe something and to be true, and it's just bullshit, to use a word.
I mean, there are chambers, right? People,
chambers,
can hide in the echo chambers. So you just have, but you have to think of how best to engage people, how to encourage people to enter this platform. There will always be extremist views, but the beauty of this platform, I think, is we need to listen to all views and try and moderate. There is a center in Stanford called the Center for Deliberative Democracy, where they've done experiments where people come with very entrenched views, but when they meet the people with opposing views, and they discuss and they have human interactions, you find that they actually moderate, and oftentimes they actually come up with compromise solutions. And this is what I'm talking about. You come up with people saying, oh, we'll never give up vernacular schools, and people saying we'll never give up affirmative action. And you come into a room and then you discuss, really, affirmative action, is it really benefiting all the Malays or just the Malay elites? Vernacular schools, you want vernacular schools, or do you agree that actually we'll never build a Malaysian nation if we don't go to school together? So find a solution. Let's find a compromise where you can teach some subjects taught in Mandarin and Tamil, but actually still part of nationalism or whatever. Let's discuss. Don't just assume that this is the only way, because the world has evolved. There must be better ways of doing some things, and maybe more acceptable to both sides.
Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. Let's discuss. Let's be in the same room, at least in the same space where we can hear each other's opinion. Because what happens on social media, as you may know, is like if I post something and then 90 people agree with me and then 10 people don't agree, they get blocked or they move on to someone, and your social media feed is filled with people who agree with you, and then you become silos of agreement rather than. There are very few pages where you are allowed to discuss. And like you say, having people in the same room walk in with a completely different point of view, as long as you're allowed to stay in the same room and just talk about it and put forward those proposals you were talking about, really, Is this going to work in the future? Yeah, I don't know. Have you had the experience? You were talking about the studies done. Have you had the experience of being in a room over a long term with someone who violently disagreed with you, or you violently disagreed with them, and were able to see both sides?
Well, in fact, in 2016, I actually hosted a little bit of a prototype of this assembly, and it happens to be in Oxford too, where we gathered 25 leading Malaysians, non-politicians, but leading Malaysians, and we sat in a room for a couple of days and debated all these issues. And there were, people with opposing views. We had, Tun Musa Hitam, we had Idris Jalla, mainly on one side, but then we had people like Marina Mahde, Tan Jamila, and we had Cynthia Gabriel of C4, and we even had Jomo. We had many people who went on to be part of the Pakatan government, like Mazli Malek, Wan Saiful, and then we had business leaders like Tan Sri Yong Pokong, Tong Kwe Ong, and we debated, and I was really encouraged, because I thought, my God, if this was Parliament, these people would be shouting at each other and not bothering to discuss, right?
Yeah.
Because we are one side, you are the other side. But actually, when we're sitting here, we say, forget about your backgrounds, forget about your prejudices. Just think about really what's better for Malaysia. How can we be a better country? And I thought that as a result, after those 2 days, we actually all got on better than we had, coming in as individuals. And also we came up with some good ideas. We didn't agree on everything. I think, when we came up on the issue of vernacular schools, it got pretty tense. But on many things we came together, and I think that it would be a similar process that we should go through with this Better Malaysia Assembly that I hope we set up one day.
So no, I do remember this 25 people you gathered in 2016, because I saw my name was on the list. I was 26. I was like, I almost made it. I was outside the door. I was like, hello, guys. Anyway, but you're absolutely correct. Imagine what you were just talking about in our parliament, where we have 222 people, and without shouting, just 2 solid days. Maybe what we need is we don't need to put it online. We don't need to put it so social media can jump on everyone, but just everyone decide that, what, we're just going to talk and discuss and listening. That'll happen. Listening is, but I'm just starting to think the names that you mentioned just now, I can see them being very smart in terms of what they want and how they want, what they want to get out of it. I couldn't say that for the entire group of parliamentarians we have at the moment. There are a lot of smart ones, but I don't know. That could be the problem. What do you think?
Well, one issue I have with the parliamentarians today is, I've seen it. I've seen it directly. Is a good idea that I know Mr. X believes in, but then I find he votes against it because it doesn't suit his politics. It's not what his political party leader wants him to support, right? So how is that good for this country? And Harith, you and I, we come from the same generation. We know a lot of people. We've seen a lot of good people go into politics, and the politics makes them bad. It's the system that makes them bad. They go in with good intentions, and then they have to bend a little bit to further their career. They have to bend a little bit to, survive this or survive that, and after a while, they're completely twisted. Because this is what the system requires them to do to survive. And this is what we need to change. And my argument is you cannot change it piecemeal. We have to change it holistically. And it's been done before. We did it in 1970. Indonesia did it, Asian financial crisis. South Africa did it. It's a painful process, but it has to be done if we're going to get on a better path. And I keep saying this. We are not a failed state, but we're a nation in decline. And the rule of physics says that in decline, you accelerate downwards.
It's interesting that you just said that. A friend of mine likened Malaysia to potentially a Titanic, and using the same words you just did, say that the decline causes you to accelerate. You don't go down slowly. It picks up pace, and if we are not careful, or if we are not quick enough, we could sink, and we don't have enough lifeboats. I don't know. Do you see us declining faster?
Well, that's why I'm pleading that we set up this assembly and really reform, because at this trajectory, it's going. We could well, and some people say, oh no, change leaders. Well, we changed leaders 3 times. Some people say, wait for GE, let the general elections. Really? What's going to change? Are you sure? The general elections, with the way we vote, first past the post, with the constituency delineation that is the same, you really think we're going to come up with a better outcome?
I have actually just said what you said. I said it 3 or 4 years ago. You could even change the whole party. Opposition could become government, government could become opposition, which happened. And I then didn't see too many changes that were going to happen. And I don't want to blow my own horn, but it's kind of been proven right. And I absolutely agree with you. You wait till the next election, everyone's, yeah, we'll wait till the next election, we'll grab the power back. And then, what are we going to see? But wow, okay, let's move forward. You have a wonderful proposition. You've commissioned this study, wonderful, great ideas. What practical steps, other than getting the word out, need to be taken to really see something develop, something change, a physical movement? What practical steps have to be taken?
Well, I mean, there are many. Don't just have one path. But ideally, I would like the government to listen, to embrace this idea, and basically recommend it to the Rulers' Council that they initiate it. And I've come up with ideas as to how we should be truly independent. I feel that what's critical is the composition of this Vaccination Assembly, and I think we should go through a very transparent and fair process. I think the nominations to this council cannot be like in 1970, where it was basically very elitist. Today, we really should allow nominations from the political parties, but also by the government, but also by NGOs, and maybe even randomly select members of the Rakyat to attend. In some deliberative platforms, there are 286 deliberative platforms according to OECD around the world. And some of them, they're created by process of sortition, which is random, like forming juries, like you randomly select individuals from the public to partake in this process, so that increases the legitimacy of this process and of this assembly. And then this assembly then deliberates maybe 18 months, and then come up with recommendations, tables it in Parliament, and or goes for a referendum of the Rakyat to say, look, Rakyat, do you agree that as a nation we are going to be better off if we adopt this new system?
Wow. I'm ahead of you. I'm thinking, if this, just let me pick up one point that you said earlier. The Rulers' Council, do you think they would play an important part in getting everyone to move forward?
I mean, it's in there. I mean, this is not, there's nothing wrong for the rulers to basically get together and say, look, let's form this deliberative council, this Better Malaysia Assembly, best and brightest and representative of people, come up with what they think is a better path forward. There's nothing wrong with them doing that. They can do that within their right, and then subject that to the whole process of parliamentary sovereignty, which is take the recommendations to Parliament. The rulers, some people, criticize me for wanting to get the rulers involved. Well, I think give me a better institution. We are lucky to have the most democratic monarchy in the world. One. Two is it's a familiar and respected institution, and it has deep roots in Malaysia, Malay tradition and culture. And fourth is there a better institution in doing this? Definitely not the executive, definitely not the judiciary. So who else? So what is wrong with the rulers' council using their their aura, if you like, to set up this platform and encourage people to partake? Nothing wrong with that. And I'd like them to put together through this process a assembly where the vast majority of Malaysians can look to it and say, yes, I believe in those people that comprise that assembly, and I trust that they will come up with a good idea. That's all we want.
I just want to refer to this statement from this person called Didi. If you let the public vote, 99% will vote for their own race, religion, etc. Back to square one. I think that's actually the point you are making, that we are underestimating the public and we expect them to do exactly what this person says, will vote for their own race, religion, etc. But I think you truly believe that this may not be the case. If given the right, given by the right picture, given the right description, given the right history, given the right platform, that Malaysians would be mature enough to get past this current box that we're in.
Yeah, and I think, even you look at results of various elections, people vote for multiracial parties, people vote for parties of other races. I think it certainly happens. And I think, in this case, we need to take steps. Identity politics is not something that you can make disappear tomorrow. It is a process we need to evolve. And it starts with changing the electoral system. Right, today, we have a great system. We got some constituencies, I think Tony Puar or Ken Meng, they're like 100,000 Chinese and 3 Malays in their constituency. And then you get these rural areas where it's like 99% Malays, right? So how do you win elections? Well, you just focus on issues of one race, right? We need, if you look at Singapore and some other countries, they have this system where they have mixed constituencies. They actually, combine different areas, not necessarily contiguous areas, so that they create mixed population in every constituency, and so that people cannot be racist in the way that they campaign.
Yes. So what you're saying is, for example, go ahead.
No, I think this is a continuum of this project, and I was speaking to Musa recently, and he was talking about. He said, I think we've really forgotten that at the beginning, we all talked about the Malayan nation project. That was the beginning of this nation. We knew we were 3 separate races living apart, and we need to build a nation out of it. Even the new economic policy was part and parcel of the Malaysian, by then, nation project. We need to accelerate the rebalancing of the economy so that we can build a nation out of it. And, part and parcel of building this nation is to take away the incentives for you to be racist or anti any other religion or group, and to think Malaysia first.
To take away the incentives for you to be racist. I'm going to print that on a t-shirt because I think that could possibly be that's an incredible train of thought. Dr. Sri, we have received a lot of questions from the public via video as well. I want to play one of these questions to you, and let's see how we go with this. This is from a gentleman called Michael Warren.
Hi, Harriet. Hi, Nazir. Long time no chat to Nazir. Harith, first shout out. Fantastic job, lah. I mean, your regular sessions are really keeping us up to date with what's happening in Malaysia. And I think, not only me, but many people sincerely appreciate, the effort and the time that you've put in. Question to Nazir. Nazir, you're very well regarded in the country. I think, you've got a very balanced view of what's going on in the corporate sectors, in the government sectors, at the national levels. And you've run very good financial institutions before. My question to you, very simple question. Is it worth it for Malaysians, I'm a Malaysian citizen. Is it worth it for Malaysians who are non-Malays to stay on in the country for the future of our children? Even Malays have moved a lot of wealth and jobs, bought houses overseas in the UK and other places, and an option to my children either move overseas or convert to become a Muslim. Because I know of some very good friends who parents have converted to become Muslims, Indians, Chinese, and the children grow up as Muslims, Malays, seemed Malays, and they seem to do very much.
Oh, we lost it. He went on to say that they seem to do much better. So I think he's echoing a lot of the non-Malays about their place in Malaysia. Would you have any response to him?
I feel a bit emotional listening to his comments there, and it's very sad that he feels that way. But I understand where he's coming from, and I think I can just appeal that this is a nation that we share. This is a nation that we need to fight for. It is a future that our children deserve. And yes, some people can move elsewhere, and I don't know. I don't think it's very easy to just settle in another country just like that. There are some Malaysians who settle in other countries and really hark back to, they wish they could live in they could go back to their own country. And not that they regret leaving, but they really wish they could build a future in their own country. And I think it's incumbent on us to try and fight for it. And I'll be honest. I mean, part of the reason why I do this project, because I really feel that the aspirations of our founding fathers, of which my father was a leading figure, has been diverted. Right? We're not building that nation that they wanted us to build. We have, gone off track, and I really want us to put it back on track. And I do what I can. I study it and I put down my thoughts because I really think we need to come together and try and rebuild this nation. We're off track. And thank you, Michael, for that question.
To be honest, I actually feel when you said you're feeling a little bit emotional about that, because I'm just reading some of the comments, and I'll be honest as well. I have a lot of non-Malay friends speak that way, ask the same questions, and it's still heartening that a lot of them say, I'm still here. I want to fight for this, but a lot of them feel that how much longer can this go on? So I think this new assembly that you're talking about, if anyone is listening out there, please, where can, is it out? Can people completely read this piece anywhere, or is it still a work in progress? Have you published it anywhere?
There's a website called info@mybetterfuture.org where there's stuff there and people can comment on that.
info@mybetterfuture.org. Okay.
But Harith, when you talk about forefathers, I was watching one of your earlier videos about your father. I mean, my father went into politics, but your father risked his life, for Malaysians and all Malaysians. And, I think you and I, and many others and almost all others really have, a huge stake in putting it right.
Yeah. When I did that video, there were a lot of responses, a lot of direct messages from people whose fathers or parents or uncles were in the army, in the police, in the Navy, in the Air Force. And, it resonated with them because they're like, what have they been fighting for all this time if we ourselves are fighting amongst each other about Melayu, China, India, dan lain-lain, and, who's better than the other and who has more rights and who should have more rights. Because at the end of the day, if you notice, at the beginning, the first month of the COVID pandemic, March 2020, for 1 month and a half, it looked as if Malaysians were together. There was no, on my social media, there was no racial sentiment, there was no political sentiment. We were all in this together because we had one common enemy. That didn't last too long. But listen, I truly believe this thing needs to take off, this better assembly. I'll be the biggest proponent of it. I think it's been something that I've been personally talking about over the years. What are you doing? I know you're semi-retired, but this proposal you're putting forward sounds like it could not just be a lot of work, but it could take a lot of energy as well. Are you up for it?
Oh, I mean, this is my passion. This is my passion. And if I have to work as hard as I did at CIMB for this, I will do it. But, people must want it. We need to hear people wanting it. And I think then hopefully the rulers, the leaders will sort of say, look, this is something we need. And hopefully something comes off it. And if that happens, if I have to work 24/7, I will.
It's right there. It's on. I've put it up there. info@mybetterfuture.org. I encourage everyone to go and check it out. I encourage everyone to start talking about it. I myself am going to be doing that. I truly, I don't know. I got to say, initially it all sounds very fantastical. It sounds very like, oh yeah, it's a concept. It's a bit dry, and can it really happen? But I don't know. In this last 45 minutes, I'm beginning to feel a swell in my already bloated tummy. I don't know why that is, but do you have a lot of people on? Have you? I'm sure you've been talking about it since 2015, 16. In your circle, and are people showing interest? Are people behind you? Are people going to? And it will take it will take brains and thought and energy. It will probably take a little bit of finance as well. Are people behind you? Your circle of friends?
They are, and I think I've explained to people ad nauseum that I've really thought long and hard about it. And if you think there's a better way, tell me. And nobody can. Nobody can. I mean, I know some politicians basically say, look, why don't we just do this in Parliament? So I said, the problem in Parliament is you guys are all politicians, right? And you guys will be thinking about your elections and what your party bosses say. You don't think for yourself. So we got to do it offline.
You're exactly right, and I wanted to ask you this just now, but we kind of got cut in the online moment. The idea of merging Kampung Baru with Salah South, geographically very far apart, and then having that balance as opposed to 900 Chinese and 3 Malays and 900 Malays and 3 Chinese, where by definition of the game, the politician who is getting the votes has to play a certain game, has to play the same message. Melayu, 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 Cina, 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 just so that he can get his seat. But if that were not the case, what different result could we have? Wow, I like that. Are there countries that have, you said Singapore. I'm not very familiar with how they break it up in Singapore.
Singapore, Germany, many countries have, combinations of first past the post plus mixed constituencies and so on. So there's a lot of innovation in democracy. And this is what I keep telling people. The system we have had and we assumed is the only system is not. That's wrong, right? We could have many different systems. And today that system has led us to elect these 222 people to vote for us on everything for the next 5 years. That is representative democracy. And people say, but that is the system. Well, it's not. The original democracy comes from the word demokratos, which is the Greek. And in that time, it was not elected representative. People went to vote for themselves, right? They would go to the Agora, they debate, and they voted for themselves, right? So representative democracy is an innovation, right? And today what I'm saying, we have elected representatives, fine, but we also should have another platform, another, what they call deliberative democracy, where you have real citizens coming in and debating long-term structural issues in parallel to Parliament, right? That's what I'm saying. It's an innovation in democracy.
Wow. How cool would that be? You're absolutely correct. I mean, people on social media, Harith, you should be PM. No, nobody, you don't choose to be PM. You don't vote to be PM. You vote the party, then the party chooses the PM. You got nothing to do with it, literally. But imagine, like you say, a parallel parliament, if you will, discussing, voting, and deciding on the same issues that our supposed leaders were deciding on, and having, I don't know, equal powers, equal decision-making power.
The paradigm one will be looking at long-term structural reforms, right? Like changes to the electoral system, like changes to the institutional governance, like things like the social contract, long-term issues that are not suited for debate in parliament, right? That's what I think we need to do.
Okay. I agree with you. Long-term solutions, that may not be suitable to Parliament. Will this involve some kind of law changes? Because as far as I know, because one of the systems which I absolutely hate is every 5 years, ministers get moved around the ministries, and then what was important for 5 years is now thrown out the window, and then new importance gets put into an issue or something. How would that change with this long-term planning?
It all depends. I mean, we could, at the extreme, adopt a presidential system where you get what you want, which is you vote directly for the PM, right? And in which case you take on a American-like system where you vote directly for the PM, and he forms a cabinet of technocrats of anybody he wants. He doesn't have to appoint politicians to run ministries. That's a very different system. But let's sit down and let's look at all the systems and see what's good for Malaysia, what's better for Malaysia.
I have to say, Dr. Sri, that this has been a really, really, I have to say, enlightening conversation, because you and I know, I hope my viewers and people watching feel the same, because what you're basically saying to us, which is obvious, but probably you haven't been thinking about, is no, this is not the only system. This is the system we have. But I think not many people knew that prior to 1970, it was quite a marked different system. Even I wouldn't know that, because I haven't studied that much about the changes that were made. But yeah, if it took a racial riot in 1969 to cause this, maybe it's COVID or whatever's happening during COVID right now that we're going to hopefully see an implementation of this change of system. All right, before you go, I just want to, you've left me with a little bit of a warm feeling. Are you hopeful for Malaysia? I know you're willing to work for it and you're passionate for it, but are you hopeful?
Well, I want to be. I'm not yet.
Very honest. Very honest.
Transparent too.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I'm not yet.
Yeah, and you know what?
Let's not wait for the nation to fail to change. Let's not wait for failure before we change. I learned that from business, right? Just because you're not failing doesn't mean you shouldn't change. Yeah. There's a stupid saying in the English language which says, if it ain't broke, why fix it? You can always fix something to make it better. You don't wait for it to completely break.
Let's not wait for the nation to fail before we fix it. On that note, and it may seem like a little bit of a downer of a note, I think what you have said this evening is totally awe-inspiring to me, and I'm glad you were not all Tony Robbins about it and saying, yeah, we can do this. You were very honest and authentic by saying, not yet, but the hope is there. With that, thank you so much, Dr. Sri Nazir Razak, for sharing your views. I hope everybody gets behind this, what shall I say, this nation-changing, nation-building platform that you have. Before we go, would you like to leave with any final words to everybody who's watching?
No, I need support. I want more voices in support of a national reset via setting up a better Malaysia Assembly. So to the extent that we can, your voice can be heard, it will be helpful. That's all I'd like to say, Harith. And I'd really thank you for having me on your platform. And as always, it's really good to chat.
Thank you for agreeing to be, and thank you for sharing this. I have to say it was not something that the conversation has turned out quite different than what I thought it was, and I'm actually very happy for that. I've learned a lot, and I will hopefully see you very soon again on the golf course. We'll see if Tony is around as well. And with that, terima kasih sekali lagi, Datuk Sri Nazir Razak. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and we will definitely. I'm going to be pushing this for the rest of the years at least. Thank you again. Take care.
Thank you.
See you soon. Wow. Let's not wait for the nation to fail before we fix it. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, if you have not shared this session, please do so now. Saya nampak memang ada ramai kata yang the English was a little bit too high standard for them. But you know what? I'm gonna be taking the key moments of this conversation and translating it and putting subtitles, because I think it is actually very important for the whole of Malaysia to hear this, because this is my takeaway. I don't know what you guys, let me know in the comments what you found to be the most interesting part of this conversation. This is what I found to be the most interesting part of this conversation for me. The system that we have now is not the only system. I have been saying for years and years and years, you can change the head, the system won't change. You need to break down the system. I was just saying that because I thought, yalla, that's a good idea. But Datuk Sri Nazir Razak has actually put this into motion. He has done the study, he has commissioned for the movement, and he is, as he said, passionate, and he's willing to work on this to actually change the system. And like you said, remember, and I truly believe, kita tak boleh tunggu sampai next election. Kita tak boleh tunggu sampai general election, because you know what? At the next general election, the head will change and it'll be the same. Trust him on this one. Trust me on that one. Guys, my show is called What's Going On Malaysia for the reason that I like to know. I'm trying to find the answer to the question, apa yang tengah jadi? What is happening to Malaysia? And I got to say, that's why I invite all the guests I do. And tonight's guest has not just, hasn't answered completely the question, what's going on Malaysia, but has probably left me with an even better question, what is possible Malaysia? This could be an interesting new show. Thank you for watching, everyone. Pakiri, Logarajan, thanks for a good show, guys. Your comments have been amazing. Your comments have been very, very thoughtful, very, very helpful. I know there's a lot of people fighting. Man sana, you're getting to a little bit of arguments to people, huh? But that's good. As long as we are in the same room discussing it, we should be able to come to a conclusion and meet halfway. Jaya Senan, change the system. Balan Kenan Mustakiza, great discussion. Terima kasih everyone for watching. Thank you so much for being part of this. What was the website again? The info at the that is just put it up right now. I want everyone to go there right now and to save this site. Can you put it up? It's coming up, guys. It's coming up in the corner here. HTTP www.mybetterfuture.org. Click on it now and save this on your bookmark. Just take the time to read it. I'm going to be talking about this site. I'm going to be talking about this idea. I'm going to be talking about this concept. This is going to become my bookmark for how I approach further conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for watching What's Going On in Malaysia. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you for sharing it on Facebook. And I think we are, if not a step closer to answering the question, what's going on in Malaysia, we have just opened up a new journey, what's possible Malaysia. Good night. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. And enjoy the rest of your week. Oh, wait. Don't go. Thursday. Let me tell you what's happening Thursday. My next guest on Thursday will be this gentleman. I'm just going to bring it up. There we go. Dato Zaid Ibrahim, ex-Minister of Law, will be my next guest on Thursday, 26 hari bulan at 9 p.m. Please join me on the show as I talk to Dato Zaid Ibrahim. So that's on Thursday. Please join me again at 9 p.m. special time. Once again, thank you very much. Good night. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. And I hope you've enjoyed What's Going On